Part 1.
You should answer the questions as you listen because you will not hear the recording a second time. First, you have another chance to look at questions 1 to 7.
Hello, Megan speaking.
Hello, Megan.
Hello, Ken. I'm glad you called. Thomas asked me to give you his telephone number.
Is that his office number or his home number?
I can give you both. His new home number is 9452-3456. Would you like his office number?
I think I have it. Does 97314322 sound right?
That's it. But the home number is 9452-3456. He moved in last week.
Good. I've got that. Now, what would you like to do?
Well, I'd like to go dancing, but Jane's hurt her ankle, so she'd rather not.
That's a pity. I guess it means she doesn't want to play tennis either.
That's right. She says it's okay to go bowling if we don't expect her to do well.
Okay, let's do it. I guess we can go dancing some other time.
Well, I booked us some time at the bowling alley of Entertainment City. Do you know it?
Is it on Smith Street? Down near the university?
That's right. It's on the corner of Smith Street and Bridge Road.
What time did you book for?
The first booking I could get was 8 o'clock.
Okay, it's 7 now. What do you want to do first?
Well, I think we should leave now. We can meet at the bowling alley.
I can't be that quick. I have to call Thomas to start with, and I need to get changed.
Okay, I think I'll leave in 10 minutes and meet you in there.
That makes sense. I'll take my car, so I'll be quite quick. I'll be out of here in half an hour.
Okay. You're so lucky to have a car. You can get around so easily.
Well, yes and no. I often spend ages driving around trying to find a park. The traffic can be very bad.
Well, that won't be a problem for me, because I'll take the bus. It goes right past my door, and I'll have plenty of time.
Sounds good. Who else is coming?
I think nearly everyone from the afternoon class will be there.
Which class? The big maths class or the afternoon tutorial?
The maths class. What's more, we get a concession for large numbers.
That's good. I'm trying to keep my expenses down this month.
So am I. I expect tonight will cost about $20.
You must be good with money. I expect it to come to, nearly $40. So how are you going to manage that?
Well, the bus is cheap, and if I come home early, I won't have time to spend too much. In any case, I have to be up early tomorrow morning, so I'd really better try to get home by about 11.
That reminds me, I have to phone the taxi company for my mother. Goodbye, Megan. I'll see you later.
Goodbye, Ken.
Ken calls the taxi company. Listen and be ready to answer questions.
Thank you for calling Acme Cabs. Please follow the instructions on the tape. If you wish to order a cab now, press 1. If you have placed an order previously, press 2. If you wish to make an advance order, press 3. Please be ready to tell us your street number and name. If you wish to speak to the radio room supervisor, press 4. If you want to inquire about lost property, press 5. If you want to order a taxi equipped to carry wheelchairs, press 6. Your call is very important. Please stay on the line for the next available order taker.
Hello, I think I left something in one of your cabs on Thursday. It was a brown paper package with an address written on it in green ink. Has anyone handed it in?
That is the end of part 1.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 2.
Part 2.
You are going to hear some announcements made to a group of people who are planning a trip to Greece. First, look at questions.
Good morning, everyone. I'm getting very excited about this trip to Greece, and I'm sure you are too. As you know, we didn't have all the details at our last meeting, but I can give them to you now. We'll leave London Gatwick Airport on British Airways next Wednesday. Please be sure to be at the airport by 6:30. I know it's early, but our departure time is 8:25 a.m. We're quite a large group and we don't want to have any hassles. Please be sure to have all your travel documents ready. We'll arrive in Athens at 2:25 in the afternoon and there'll be a vehicle there to meet us. It'll be a full-sized coach so everyone can travel together. We'll spend 3 full days in our hotel in Athens, although we're only being charged for 2 nights accommodation, which is good news. The second day we'll go to the National Archaeological Museum to see the enormous collection of ancient Greek works of art, antiques, statues, a brilliant display. We'll eat out at a typical Greek restaurant on Thursday night. It's going to be a very busy time in Athens. Friday morning and afternoon we'll visit historic sites, but we have nothing planned for the rest of the day. On Saturday we're off to the islands, the Greek islands of ancient myth and modern romance. Now the big news. At first we thought we'd take the ferry, but we've been very lucky to secure a sailing boat, which is big enough for all of us. I'm really excited about this part of the trip because we'll see the islands to the best advantage and we'll be able to cruise around and sleep on board. We'll get off at different islands and for one part of the trip we'll have people playing Greek traditional music actually on board with us. Now I'll pass out a brochure with all the details.
Now look at questions 16 to 20.
A lot of work has gone into organising this tour, and I'd like to thank in particular the travel agent who got us a really good deal, and the people at the British Museum who offered us such good advice. Trips like this only happen because of the hard work of really expert people. As you know, we have planned a gathering for when we return. I have a list of things which the committee would like you to bring to the party. They are your pictures and something to eat for everyone to share. You are almost bound to have people ask what we have in common and why we're travelling as a group. I suppose the answer is that we're interested in learning about old societies and vanished cultures, and we all enjoy travelling. Of course we enjoy fine food too, but that's not as important. Oh, I nearly forgot the last piece of information. You'll see there are labels which I have passed around for you to put on all your luggage. Could you fill them in, please? On the top line, please write Greek tour, and on the lower line, write in block letters, I mean uppercase, the letters AA and the number 3. That's AA3. We need to have these labels clearly displayed to help the baggage handlers keep our luggage together on the different parts of our trip, so please don't take them off.
That is the end of part 2.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 3.
Part 3.
You are going to hear Dr. Joanna Robinson, the course director of a language learning centre, answering questions from reporters from the student newspaper. First, look at questions 21 to 26.
Welcome to the Language Learning Center. I'm Joanne Robinson. You must be the reporters from the Examiner. Please come in and sit down.
Hello, Dr. Robinson. Yes, we're from the Examiner. I'm Cheryl Perkins and this is Don Klim. May I start with a question? Did this college really start with Brazilian students?
It did. The Language Learning Center was founded in 1985 to look after a group of students from Brazil who wanted to study here. Those 20 students soon grew to 60, and as you can imagine, we had severe accommodation problems.
Somebody said you were in the old amenities block, right near the engineering school.
They have a good memory. Yes, we were there because the university hadn't believed we would expand so quickly. The problem wasn't solved until we moved into these new premises in Bancroft House in 1987.
When did you start taking students from other countries?
About 1990. We now have students from 13 different countries enrolled, and we expect a large group from Turkey next month.
Yes, we've noticed a lot more advertisements for Turkish restaurants in our advertising section.
Well, 40% of our students come from Turkey, by far the largest single national group, and I believe there's been an influx to the rest of the university. There are a lot of Turkish students studying hospitality.
Do you offer anything special to the students?
Yes, we do. There are several things which make us rather different from other language schools. English is certainly not restricted to English for academic purposes here. Sometimes we have extra classes for students who have particular courses in mind. And we have just said goodbye to a group of 30 Indonesian students who were preparing for a university course in agriculture. They came to us for English for farming, and they were with us for a long time. We miss them.
How long do students usually stay at the Language Learning Center?
It varies, so I'll talk about the average. Most of our courses last for 5 weeks, but to make any real progress, a student needs to be here for at least 3 terms. That's 15 weeks. The students do better if they have a little time to settle in at the beginning of the course, and we offer an orientation course that lasts a week. Most students take it. It helps them to settle down, and it gives us plenty of time to test them and place them at the right level.
How many people are in each class?
We sometimes go up to 18, but our average class size is 14 students, and some classes have as few as 7 participants. It depends on the needs of the group.
You were saying that you miss your students when they go. How do you attract students? I mean, how do they hear about the Language Learning Center in the first place?
We're included in the university advertising and marketing, and we have our own website. The thing which works best for us, though, is word of mouth. Students who leave us often send us their friends. In fact, a student who arrived today was carrying a photograph for me of a former student and his baby.
It sounds like a nice place to be.
It is. A lot of our students make lasting friendships while they're here.
Now look at questions.
Making friends with other students sounds special enough. I'd like to emphasize that in the student newspaper.
We do try to get our students to be part of the wider university.
How do you do that? Do you encourage them to join the sports centre, for instance?
Indeed we do. The sports center is always looking for active participants, particularly in soccer. Oh, and something else. You might like to mention that we don't teach just English here. I mean, we're a language center, not an English language center. You may learn Spanish, Mandarin, and Russian here, and we can sometimes offer other languages. This means we can have some students who are native speakers of those languages as conversation partners for English-speaking students.
Who can do these courses?
At this stage, any native speaker of English.
What about the people who are learning English? Can they do a non-English language course?
At this time, only if they've almost finished their English language course. You see, we try very hard to involve students who are native speakers of English as conversation leaders, and we encourage our students to join groups on the campus. For instance, if they enjoy music, there is an active jazz group available to everyone, and that's a lot of fun. On the other hand, elementary students can't go to the drama group. Their English just isn't ready for that sort of activity. But the university choir welcomes all the singers it can find. They often do large productions that need a lot of voices.
I imagine the special conversation groups are open to all your students.
I wish they were. I'm sorry to say they're a special service we provide for elementary students only. Is there anything else I can tell you? I'd be really pleased if you could write about the courses we offer in foreign languages.
I think our readers will be very interested in that. Thank you for your time, Dr. Robinson.
Yes, thank you very much.
Goodbye. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about the center. It's always good to let the rest of the students at the university know what goes on in our classrooms and outside them. After all, many of our students leave us and then study for degrees in various disciplines on this campus.
That is the end of part 3.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 4.
Part 4.
You will hear a presentation. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40. Welcome to this presentation on the results of our survey of Asian students in Australia, the UK and the US. Australia is growing in popularity among Asian students, while the UK and the US are losing ground as the place to study for a degree, according to our international survey. Our research is based on the views of 1,500 undergraduates from 10 Asian countries studying in Britain, the USA and Australia. 60% of the students were aged between 18 and 21, and 30% were between 22 and 25. 4 in 10 students cited a better quality of education as their main reason for studying away from their home country. About 27% said they were doing it to broaden their experience, and because they were attracted by the cultural experience of living in a foreign country. Business, commerce, and marketing are still by far the most dominant field of study, attracting almost 2/5 of students. 3/4 of Asian students polled in Australia said it was their first choice, compared to less than half when we conducted the same survey in the year 2000. From an Australian perspective, it's very positive, because more and more students are consciously choosing Australia rather than it being a second choice. The UK and American parts of the survey show that they are no longer the preferred destinations they were, despite still being seen as offering the best education in the world. Australian universities have done a really good job of promoting Australia as well as their own universities. Australia is seen as good value for money and is attracting the more price-sensitive students. Australia's overseas students' enrolments have doubled since the year 2000 to 200,000 in 2006, at a time when they have declined in the US and the UK's share of the global market is declining. Reflecting this increase, Australia's education exports rose 17.8% last year, and were valued at more than $5 billion for the first 9 months of 2006. In the United States, a clampdown on foreign students following the terrorist attacks on September the 11th has made many Asian students feel unwelcome. As a result, applications to American universities have declined. This could happen in the UK. If students find it hard to get visas, they could question whether the country really wanted them. Another factor in Australia's growing popularity was the wish of some members of the growing Asian middle class to settle in the country after studying there. The cost of study and value for money also featured highly on the list of reasons students gave for choosing Australia as a study destination. Much higher than in Britain. 34% said they selected Australia because they thought living expenses were relatively less expensive, and 20% made their decision because tuition fees were cheaper. Quality remained the biggest drawcard for students wanting to study in Australia, reinforcing the critical importance of its reputation overseas, according to new research. Asian students still ranked the US and Britain as having the highest quality universities, but Australia rated third, but ahead of other destinations like Canada, New Zealand and Germany. Despite the emergence of transnational education programs, 81% of students did not consider undertaking a foreign degree in their home country. It seems that the concern that these programs are going to diminish the number of foreign students is a bit premature. Only 4% of those enrolled in Australia had studied overseas before, a figure we attribute to an emerging middle class of Asian students wanting to study offshore. In the past, many Asian students had come from their home country's elite, high-income families whose parents had studied abroad. What we've got now is an emerging middle class who maybe haven't travelled before and whose parents were not educated overseas. Our study also shows that students rely more on education agents than in the past, with implications for universities that plug direct enrolments online. Whilst our findings are good for Australia, which is increasing in popularity as a study destination, they do not mean that Australia can rest on its laurels, as competition is increasing from a growing number of institutions and study destinations.
That is the end of part 4.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.